How often have you run into people who've been in places like like they're in a 51 prohibited space, and then they end up using a firearm to defend themselves? Or
I've had a couple of those cases.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, the business didn't have the proper 51 signs.
I know.
So then you get it kicked out.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're not going to tell them what it is here.
No, I'm not. No. It's just a little
You're
logo.
Don't tell them.
It's just,
This episode of the Colion Noir Podcast is brought to you by Vetter Holsters. Welcome to another episode of the Colion Noir Podcast, and joining me today is Mike Price.
thank you.
How's it
Pleasure
going?
to be here.
Absolutely. So you want to tell the people who and what you do?
Again, my name is Mike Price. I'm a criminal defense lawyer here in the Dallas and Colion County area. Been a criminal lawyer for 30 years. Graduated SMU Law School in 95 and started representing defendants from day one.
Yeah.
Was never a prosecutor. I kind of take pride in that.
That's kind of almost a thing too.
Yeah,
I remember when I was in law school, I was
is.
like, you thought about going into DA's? I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah, no, I was like, fuck that. And it's funny, me and a couple of my buddies from law school, I interned at the DA's office. I wanted to be a prosecutor. We applied. They didn't accept us. So I started hanging my shingle, started representing people. And, you get licensed in November. It was the 1st of December, right after Thanksgiving. The elected DA called me up and was like, hey, we want to reconsider that because I think 3 or 4 of the 8 that he promised jobs to didn't pass the bar. And then I'm like, looked at my bank account. I said, I've been a lawyer for a month and I've made more money than I would with you for probably 5 months or 6 months. I said, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
that was kind of my angle too. Like I was telling you, I started off at one school because I'm like, okay, this looked better on my resume, working at a firm, so forth and so on. And then I was like, once I realized, I was like, no, I like to hustle.
Yeah, and that's, from about 10 or 11 years old, I was mowing yards in the neighborhood. Yeah. Got a truck. I'm painting houses, fixing fences, my own boss, my own, and that's really the whole reason I went to law school is I wanted to be my own boss. And there's no way in hell I could work at a DA's office now. Even the best ones around here, they're so political and just so much micromanaging. And you can't, especially Dallas. Dallas for 30 years. The climate and just how just shit doesn't get done, and it's insane. And the mentality, and then you've seen, like we were talking before, just the shift from how this town was in the 90s. Republican led across the board, Republican judges, Republican DAs, way more of a Republican type city, and now what we have. Yeah. And that's how they look at cases and how they prosecute cases and how they look at. Every DA and every judge down there is hardcore, libtard left, Democrat, and they freak out about guns, and they freak out about gun cases. And it's
crazy because we're in the heart of Texas.
Yeah.
There was a whole show about Dallas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what's crazy is go 15 miles from here, and you're in Colion County, and it's the most conservative, and it's insane how they look at cases up there.
What's funny about that? So when I'm filling out my 4473s, on my phone, whenever I get a new gun and stuff, and then ask me what county, my brain wants to say Colion County.
Yeah.
Because of the way I am politically, but I'm like, oh no, I'm in Dallas County.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that you brought that because I was like, I always do that. I start writing this, and I'm like, no, you're in Dallas, fool.
Yep. So I lived here. I guess I moved up to Frisco, Colion County in 2004 before my son was born, and then we've lived up there ever since. So it's tale of two cities. Had my practice down here until 18, 19, and then finally got tired of the drive and moved it up to Plano. So practices in Plano, but I probably do 20-30% Dallas still, probably 50-60% Colion, and then Denton and a few other counties. But Colion's, for all their tough on crime and their reputation, it's a really great place to practice criminal law because usually the clients have more money, and the judge, the judges, the DA, the prosecutors, they're mostly 2A Republican. They kind of think like we do, so it's a whole different mindset.
Yeah.
So.
And I tell people that all the time because a lot of people have this misconception that hey, I live in Texas, so if I defend myself, I don't have to worry about the court system here like I would if I was in California. And as you pointed out succinctly, it's maybe if you're in Colion.
Yeah, maybe. I'll tell you a story or two in Colion that even not. But there's that perception that I'm in Texas, I can carry a gun, I can use it for whatever, and I get a lot of cases, road rage cases, and I don't know who's teaching these people how to carry or what to carry. I had one of the very first LTC. Well, I mean, literally when the LTC law came out, when it was early 90s, I don't even know now. I think I was in college, so I was still in there. So whenever it was, I mean, I was day one, got the license and all, and our instructor was a former DPS trooper. And it's the way I tell people, I'm like, almost like a cop. You're not pulling a gun to wave it around and say stop. If I'm pulling my gun, the trigger's getting pulled within a microsecond. There's no and I get so many clients that just flash a gun or get a little road rage and say, hey, I got a gun. And every single time they get charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Second-degree felonies.
I wonder
and it's an epidemic. And I'm like, I get it. I've been in one type of road rage situation in my life. I had a asshole in the tollway cut me off, and he literally stopped dead center of the tollway and got out of his car. And I'm like, hey, you're insane. And I'm calling 911. Of course, I got my gun on me, and I'm just waiting. And I'm like, and then he got behind me, and he wouldn't go, and I'm giving license plate number. And then, finally I was able to get away where he couldn't make the exit, way down, just right down here, right where my office was on Harwood. But I'm like, I get it. You have that adrenaline going real quick, but it's like, at a certain deal, you're in a car. And I've had some clients with some road rage situations where they're on the highway and they are literally trying to run you over, and it does stop it. A lot of times, but then they're going to call the police.
And now you go to jail.
Say, yes, you're getting arrested for a felony. Big bond, you're going to pay me tens of thousands of dollars. Most of the time I can get you no billed, which we do a polygraph. I was in fear for my life. He's cutting me off, but it's huge. And right now it's you've always been able, there's a legal defense in Texas 904 that you can exhibit a deadly weapon to prevent the commission of an assault. Well, there's a new law that I think it should come out of committee. It'll be a new law September 1st. That's kind of codified that into the aggravated assault statute. So that's going to be...
affirmative defense in terms...
It's more... I mean, it's kind of like that defense has always been there, but now they're putting it right in the ag assault deadly weapon, which basically is like, it's a defense if you exhibited a weapon to stop the commission of assault or serious bodily injury.
Kind of custom tailoring it to that particular charge, just so that...
Because it's insane. There are so many ag assaults that shouldn't be an ag assault, but the cops, charge it.
All right, so I've got to give a quick shout out to Vetter Holsters. They're now sponsoring the podcast. I've been using their light tuck Kydex inside the waistband holster, and what I really like is how adjustable it is. You can tweak the ride height and cant to get it exactly how you want. Plus, they've got holsters for over 450 gun models in 75 different colors, so you can pretty much find whatever you need. But here's the thing that really sets them apart: their customer service. I've heard so many stories about how they've gone above and beyond to make sure you're happy with your holster, and with a lifetime warranty and a 30-day money-back guarantee, it's clear they stand behind their products. If you're in the market for a great holster, check them out at betterholsters.com.
And the difference in the two counties is it's night and day. It's night and day. So the murder case I had, which it was a USCCA. I'm sure you and your viewers know about that. Referral, and I remember shot this person. Right in his house.
I have to ask real quickly, right? And I want you to explain it because I have an idea of how it works, but I want you to explain how does that work. So, like, if you're an attorney, and so do you work for USCCA, or you're kind of on the referral system?
No,
how does that work?
And that's the absolute beauty. And I'm not here to promote USCCA, but I'm one of their guys and one of their strike force attorneys. But the beauty about them versus some of the other insurance programs, gun programs, if you will. It's kind of completely divorced from them and the paying and the client. I mean, if you're a USCCA member, USCCA, and you use your handgun and it's a self-defense situation, you call them up and say, hey, I'm getting charged, or the police are here, I need help. They're going to call me immediately. A lot of times I'm talking to you before you're even arrested or the police are there, or maybe it's your wife or wherever you're at. It's like, well, they just arrested him. I'm kind of on the scene that quick.
Okay.
And then you'll meet with me like a client, like you were never involved in USCCA.
Okay.
I'll meet with you. I'll do a fee agreement, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $100,000. Here's our fee agreement. We take care of it. USCCA, they say, yeah, Mike, if it's a covered deal, I said, yeah, it's a covered situation. They pay me the bill, and you and I are the client. They don't interfere at all in our relationship.
Gotcha.
Which is big, because a lot of the other outfits, they nickel and dime. You're kind of an attorney. You're an attorney for that outfit, and they kind of tell you what to do and how to do it, versus me being your lawyer.
So it's kind of like, and I know all of this. I'm acting like I don't, but I just want you to explain it. But it's basically just like, here's the money. Go do what you
go do it. I mean, they want an update every month or two. What's going on? How we doing? But they stay out of it 1,000%. That's the only way I would represent people.
Yeah.
And when I think I've been with them now 7 years, 8 years, and when I first started with them, I was kind of hesitant until they told me kind of how it was, and I'm like, no, if they're because it's, as you know, being a lawyer, I have an attorney-client relationship. I don't care who's paying the bill, and especially who's paying the bill is not going to tell me how to represent my client. And it'd be no different than your dad or your parents or your someone else is paying the bill. They pay the bill, and that's it. And it's just, they pay the bonds, they pay everything, and and I tell people this, you probably do too. If you carry a firearm, it's a no-brainer. If you own firearms, you should. But if you're carrying it every day or have it in your car or believe in the 2A, it is the cheapest and best insurance you can have. And you pay insurance across the board: your house, your car, your life insurance, your kids, your health. That insurance is invaluable, and just the benefits, the magazine, and just the organization is great too. But
it's the same, like I say all the time.
Just having that, seeing it from my side, the amount, and a lot of my clients, they would never hire me because they don't have the money. They don't have.
Oh, I forgot you're a Colion County attorney.
Yeah, they don't have. Yeah, I mean, they don't have several $100,000 to get them out of a murder case.
Yeah.
The last murder case I had a couple of years ago, and it was a USCCA case, and this poor guy didn't have, he would have been stuck with a public defender, and he would have been in prison. Yeah. Hands down. He was in his 60s. The only way to say it was this piece of shit guy his daughter was dating. He took him in during COVID, then wouldn't leave, back and forth. Guy had been to prison. Of course, through my investigation, it turned out he was an Aryan Brotherhood, had Aryan Brotherhood tats, was just to this day, no one knows how bad his criminal record was. Gotcha. Even the DAs. You got stuff you got in Tennessee, you got here, you're in and out of prison. And my guy, he's being nice to his daughter, tried to kick him out of the house. No. They had a Christmas thing planned for him, a couple of years ago. He bolted, stole the daughter's truck, went off, whatever. And had kind of threatened, my client before that, you do anything to me, oh man, I've killed people in prison, don't fuck with me type deal. Yeah. And he came back 3 or 4 days later after Christmas. Client had enough of it. Said, "You're out. Get out of my house. You're gone now." And of course, how did that go over with a guy that the toxicology? He had an amount of meth in his system that was 10 times more that would have killed you and I.
Seriously?
Yes, 10 times. Their own expert. Not expert.
How's that even possible?
Yeah, because you're a meth head. He'd gone on a bender.
Bench,
Okay. And he was hyped up on meth. He was like, "You're not gonna kick me out, you fucking old man, because you're gonna have to shoot me," And he starts coming at my guy, and he's elderly. Yeah. Literally, not elderly, in his 60s, but injuries, can't really walk, and comes at my guy sitting in his own living room in his lazy boy, pulls out his trusty 45, 1911, pops him right here.
Wow.
Daughter was on the couch, saw it. Daughter freaks out, calls 911. "Dad just shot my boyfriend, just shot him, and you're gonna get here." And my client's, "Give me the phone. That's not what happened. It was self-defense." Daughter tells the police and testifies at trial. Shot him for no reason. stood up and shot him, and then stood over him and said, "How do you like that, motherfucker?"
Was the daughter on meth too?
In and out. Daughter had her own. Daughter was not a good witness for the state of Texas. But yeah, said he stood over and shot him in cold blood. Cops show up, arrest my client for murder. He's there in his tailgate of his truck, got his gun, his pistol, and all. Arrest him for murder. Get him bonded out. And of course, the police report reads like cold-blooded murder.
Yeah.
You know, the wife calls USCCA. They call me. I talk to him in jail, and I'm like, this is self-defense.
Yeah.
This is not. I said, I know what the probable cause is, but this is. And they're like, okay, and that's it. That's all it took. Okay. Yeah. Posted $100,000 for his bond. Cut me a check, whatever I needed it. And at the end of the day, the jury was out 50 minutes.
Damn.
And they were like, why did this go to trial?
Yeah.
This is insane. And the bailiff in that court, really nice guy, big old guy, looked like he could play linebacker right now. Afterwards, like, what do you think? He goes, oh, I had 3 minute not guilty. He goes, are you kidding me? That's insane. I mean, everyone. Yeah. But they didn't do any investigation. I mean, there's blood splatter on the deal that even the jurors, before I called our expert, which again USCCA paid for, to prove where the drops were. The drops, you know, like if you splatter water, they hit here and went that way.
Yeah.
That's a guy coming at you and over. And then the trajectory of the bullet through his body lined up perfectly with someone coming at you. They didn't do any of that.
Yeah. And that's I don't mean to cut you off, but that's a thing that people don't understand. Yeah. A lot of people in the legal system are lazy.
Right.
So they're not going to do the investigator. We watch too many movies. Right. So we think, okay, crime's going to happen. The cop's going to come in there. There's going to be an investigator that comes in there that goes in there and makes sure we're going to see where the blood splattered and all this. You have to hire a damn.
If this jury was, well, I picked it, so it was a great jury, but it was a hardcore Colion County.
Gotcha.
Self-defense to a jury. And I knew if I went in, you got to be smarter than the prosecutors. Yeah. If I went in and started asking about guns and who owns a gun and who believes in self-defense and who has a right to gun, do you carry a gun in your car, I would lose all my jurors. So I took a calculated risk that I'm in Colion County. Now you can see a little old lady or a little, school teacher, here or there. You kind of like maybe cut out a few yourself. Yeah. For the most part, I didn't even ask about guns. 9 of my 12 jurors were USCCA members. We're licensed. Hey, they were, because one the foreman even I knew. He basically like, how did he afford you? And I'm like, well, US. He goes, I figured I'm a member, and it's like, I'm a member. Yeah, my husband's a member. I do, and it's like, beautiful. So 9 of them talked to us afterwards, and they were all gun people, all licensed to conceal, all deal. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of why I didn't bring that up, because I figured if I kept and the state didn't ask about it either. So when I'm up there doing it, I'm like, if I identify y'all are going to get struck. Yep. So I'm going to lay behind the log because I know who y'all are, and I did a bunch of other stuff. But several of the jurors were like, "Oh, we saw the pictures before your guy," and I could see where the blood was, and it's not even. The daughter is saying he was over here on the other side, and you got up and shot him over here. Well, why is there blood right next to the table? And the sheriff's deputy, the crime scene people should be fired, and they should be prosecuted. This jury was so pissed. There was nothing done. Jeez. They came in and took 20 pictures with a cell phone. They took about 20 pictures with a cell phone.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
I forgot to turn on my do not disturb.
Yeah. And it's like, that was the sum total. It's like, show up. Well, guy over here said he shot him. Well, we got a dead body. The daughter was an eyewitness, said he, shot him and stood up and said, "How do you like that, motherfucker?" Well, we got that was it.
Was this in Colion County? Okay.
Yeah, eastern side of Colion County. So it's Colion County Sheriff's Department investigation because they're out in the country.
Gotcha.
But
that's the thing, though, too. Because we were sitting here ranting and raving and talking about how great Colion County is. But even in Colion County,
it was horrific.
The lackadaisical ass work.
Horrific. Yeah. He was so bad, the prosecutors didn't call him as a witness. I had him under subpoena, and I called him as a witness. Their lead investigator, the person that filed the case, their lead guy, they didn't call as a witness. Yeah, and you're right. So that's the whole point of that is, if you've got a couple $100,000 laying around, and this was the clearest case self-defense, the guy sitting in his own living room in his lazy boy, and a 10 times felon that's got 10 times the amount. Literally, I think he had 8 or 9 felony convictions that we knew of. Been to the pen.
How the fuck was he still out?
Yeah, well, you can get out. I forgot he was a sex offender too. And I managed to make sure the jury knew that. And he's in his own home, and he's coming at him with the ME telling him that amount of meth, is lethal. I was like, how much? Like, it's 10 times lethal. Yeah. And he shot him. And that's as clear as self-defense as you can be. And he got arrested. And probably with bonds and everything. I mean, it's a $250,000 defense. And it's we're not guilty, and he's back home in his house. But if you don't have that, he would have died in prison. Because, I think the last offer was 10 years in prison, because my guy was like 62, 63. And, he would have done, we have to do half, but he'd probably do more like 80 or 90% with a deadly weapon. Yeah. So he would have died in prison. He couldn't survive prison.
Yeah, not at all. No.
And with a court-appointed lawyer or
a court-appointed would have literally just came to him and, look, you want to take this deal because they got you dead to rights. And it's like, because they're not going to do anything either.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's invaluable. And that's on the extreme end, but it's, all the smaller cases. I mean, I've had... unless you've got the money, to do that. Yeah. But and it's just, from my standpoint, it's like not only, and I've just met other USCCA lawyers from across the country at different events, and they don't hire chicken shit lawyers. Yeah. They don't have. It's not like. Yeah, we're going to give you this lawyer, and
Peter, who does videography on the side on the weekend.
Exactly, yeah. Well, here, Peter will represent you. Yeah, and that's it.
Law and Order.
It's like, and there's lawyers out there like that. They do wills, they do trusts, they do car wrecks, they'll do your divorce, and here's a murder case for $20,000. Go take. No, they hire guys like me, and it's no questions asked on the money. They're not pinching pennies on who you get hired. Yeah. I mean, it's so bad. I've got a membership for my dad. My son's just finishing up his second year of college, and he wants to get his license to carry this summer. I'm like, and you're going to have a membership. It's just, it
just makes sense.
It makes sense.
It makes sense, and it literally evens the playing field legally. Right. It really does.
Well, it tilts it in your favor because these prosecutors are not. But at least you have a fighting chance. Yeah, absolutely. Because they have all the lawyers, all the investigators, all the money in the world, and you need to be able to fight that.
Yeah. So so you mentioned something you were talking about in the situation. 60-year-old man. The guy's in his house to charge him. So I want to kind of talk about disparity of force, because I think it's a concept that a lot of people don't understand, and how dynamic and fluid the concept of disparity of force works, right? So in this case, it's pretty clear cut. Old guy, big guy, drugged out of his mind, in the house charging him. Yep. Disparity of force makes perfect sense, right?
Which is great to keep in mind, because that's on about of an extreme scale as you can be. Yeah. And he had to have a jury trial. That's what you got to realize.
Yeah.
It was $250,000, and for an hour, his life was in 12 people's hands in Colion County. So even in Colion County, where you think it's 2A self-defense, we're not in Dallas County. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's it's like, oh no, that's the disparity of force. He was absolutely. He had to go to trial.
It's crazy.
He had to go to trial. So now we're talking this fluid. Yeah. Well, down here. Yeah.
Exactly. Like that's the thing that people don't really think about is like, in your mind you may think, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. Doesn't matter. You're kind of at the dice roll of what police officer shows up.
I was going to say that's the very beginning. It's how did they get there? Who shows up? What's the scene? And it's a domino effect. Yeah. And if you're not the first to call. And it's kind of that old deal. Well, that 911 call sometimes is your best evidence, And if you're the one to call 911, this person's trying to run me off the road. He's trying to kill me. He's stopping. He's doing all this. I think he's got a gun. He's pointing at me. What? Or if you just wait around and show your gun, and then the other person calls the police. Well, I'm sorry, you got a gun on you. He said you showed it, and and that's just it.
Speaking of guns, there's kind of like this myth, so to speak. It may not be a myth. You may correct me. How much attention from your experience do you notice that prosecutors try to play on the type of gun used, modifications to the gun, things of that nature?
Not a lot, because most of the gun involved cases I have are handguns, and this guy had just his old Colt 45, old 1911 Colt 45. He's probably carried for 40 years. The newer guns, whether it's a Glock or Kimber. I mean, I've had they're mostly pistols, so they're they don't really they don't really harp on that. I mean, there's not if I'm trying to think. I've never represented someone that's like, got an AR going down the street. I mean, we've had some of those instances here in Dallas and in other cities. Those they would, but most
just the simple fact that it was an AR.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Well, again, it's an assault rifle.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's Armalite. You don't know anything about that gun, but yeah. So
how much teaching do you find yourself having to do in court while you're trying a case to the jury, and indirect teaching, so to speak?
Some. I mean, it just depends on the case, and it just depends. More, not so much about guns, because again, even in Dallas County, I mean, you pick you do that in Fort Howard. You get rid of the ones that are anti-gun, anti-this. You don't want, do you have guns in your house? No. Do you not? Kind of like with a DWI, you don't want the non-drinkers, the teetotalers. You don't want them on your jury. Yeah. You definitely don't want, anyone that's an anti-gun person on your jury. Yeah. So if they have guns, they understand. I mean, they have them for a reason. They're going to have some idea of self-defense, and they're not going to be shocked that, your client had a gun. Gotcha. Your client pulled a gun in this situation. Maybe they wouldn't have, but then you're more educating them on the self-defense and what's reasonable. So that murder over here is that clear. Well, I got another murder case right now.
Okay.
Not so clear. Family, wake, funeral, everyone's got emotions high. One member of the family is drunk off her, what, yelling, screaming, getting in a fight with everybody, fighting the elderly people at the house, won't leave. They're trying to kick her out. She's literally like going at, elderly mom and an elderly uncle, to the point they're all fighting in the vestibule trying to get her to leave. And, one of the younger family members pulls a gun and shoots her because she's attacking, attacking grandma. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. Because I can see both arguments.
And that's it. You talk about fluid. Well, in her mind at that moment, and even the uncle was like, I was literally a split second to pull my handgun because we couldn't control her. Mm-hmm. That's going to be tough. And that's one of those that it gets back to when do you pull a gun? Well, are you in fear of serious bodily injury or death? Does she have a knife? Is she doing?
See, that whole
and she knew, they knew she carried a knife. And one of the things, there was a knife found next to her, and the police were all, well, did y'all see the knife? Did she pull it? Was she waving it? Well, no, but she had it. She's fighting. And it's like, well, you don't get to just shoot, So, I mean, that's going to be a very tough case. Very tough case. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. But again, it speaks to the dynamic, how dynamic those situations can be.
And they're in milliseconds. They're in seconds.
Literally
in seconds. Milliseconds. And again, it's, and I know you tell all your listeners this, you can't just pull a gun or use a gun unless it's literally, life-threatening. If you're in your house, you don't have to worry. If someone comes in your house or breaking in your front door, sorry, I didn't know you were a Jehovah's Witness. Don't break my door at 1:00 in the morning. You're going to get shot. So, but if you're kind of out and about, or it's fluid. And
I always tell people, people tend to create the best scenarios in their mind that they might find themselves in from a self-defense standpoint, because it's uncomfortable to think about the more questionable. Yeah. Right. And I tell people, no, let your mind go there, because you'll realize how much you don't really know what you would do until you let your mind go there. Yeah. At least then you've thought about it before. So like you kind of have that in the back of your mind if it does end up showing up, and it gives you a better ability to make a decision in that situation, right? Yeah,
it's practice. Yeah. You if you're a wide receiver, if you're a baseball player, you better think about hitting that home run every day. You better think about what you do in a 3-2 count. You better think about, the route you're going to run in your mind 1,000 times over. And then you got to practice. You better go to the range. You better be able to handle whatever gun you're carrying. But you're right. You've got I mean, the easy situation, you're in bed and someone's, breaking down your door and there's 3 or 4 guys. I mean, that's easy. Just, shoot, empty 2 or 3 clips. And I don't care even if it's Dallas. They're going to be like, yeah, okay, you're good. You're not getting arrested in that situation. That's over here. Where is the line? Where does it, again, it's the gray area cases that are tough. And you better know what to do. And the simplest thing for me is just don't pull that gun unless your life or is absolutely the last resort.
And I think a lot of people don't understand the statement, I was in fear of my life or egregious bodily injury, is not an entirely subjective thing. It's not just because you felt that way. It is what would a reasonable person in that situation feel. And a lot of people think, if I just say that and I feel that way, then I'm justified. That's not how that works at all.
No, not at all. Yeah, you get it. Yeah, and it's the cops at the scene probably aren't going to get it unless it's now the person you shot sitting there with a gun on them, or they got a big old knife, and okay, now we're closer. But if they're unarmed, or you're in cars, because it's kind of like, I get it, that car's a deadly weapon, but why are you following them off the freeway? Why are you engaging? You need to back off. Now, if you're backing off, and I bring up road rage because there's tons of that cases, and that seems to be where the guns come out. Just know, you've got to do everything you can to stop that. And if you're getting off or you exit and they come to you and they cut you off, I think you've probably seen the video floating around, guy in a white truck, cuts off, that guy gets out and he's got his gun. He doesn't raise it up at the guy, but as soon as he gets to that door, the guy shoots through the door. 100% justified.
What else do I
walked away. Luckily, there was a video of the car behind him of that.
That's why I tell one, get a dash cam.
I was going to say, you beat me to it. They're $50, $100. Get one. Absolutely have to have a dash cam. I mean, your car, they have them now. A lot of the newer ones have them built in.
I have a whole set. Mine is goofy, right? Because mine records the exterior, the interior, the rear. I can pipe into it via
that's awesome.
LTE, so I can be anywhere in the world and I can see what's going on with it. Now, a lot of that is just because of some of the cars I drive, they draw attention, and then I've had stuff stolen out from valets at hotels and things like that. So. And
I tell people that too. You got to have a dash cam because that's going to cover you on all that. And 90% of these things are, you're not taking a gun. You're not having a bar fight at 2 a.m. You better not be having a gun in there anyway with that. But and you're right. If you're at a restaurant, you're at a grocery store, you're at church or whatever, and someone comes in with a gun, you got to use it. You're the hero. So again, that's over here. No one's going to question what you did. It's you better have something on camera and at your house too, but you better it's just too cheap not to.
How often have you run into people who've been in places who they're in a 51 prohibited space and then they end up using a firearm to defend themselves or something?
I've had a couple of those cases. Most of the time, the business didn't have the proper 51 signs. I know. So then you get it kicked out. I mean,
we're not going to tell them what it is here.
No, I'm not. No. It's just a little logo.
Don't tell them.
It's just a little black little. It's a handgun with a line through it down on the corner. About 6 inches by 6 inches. That's all you need.
I think it's supposed to be like 8 inches. Something like that.
No. The reason they don't have signs is they're fucking ugly. And they're big and they're terrible. So they don't have them. All the hotels, they don't have it. So it's like, well, you can't bring a hand. You see them. You walk in.
I see them all the time.
And fine. I mean, restaurants, whatever. I
always obey them.
Yeah. Oh, always, yes. Of course. Of course. I tell
people that don't let them.
Yeah. Always obey them. The thing is, I look at that, and it's time. It can happen anywhere, but if you're a responsible concealed carry and you've got it concealed, now you can't be Rambo and going in there and you got 2 1911s under your shoulder and you want to walk in somewhere. But it's kind of like it's the don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm under the impression that even the signs within themselves, it's more of a. If you are caught with the firearm, then they can tell you to leave.
Right.
And then if you decide not to leave, then you're in violation.
Right. And that's what I was getting to. Yeah. If I need my gun in a 51 spot, I'm going to have it on me.
Yeah.
and I don't care your civil liability or what. And that's some of the new laws we bring them up. They're cleaning up. There should be some new laws that are really cutting out a lot of the spots that can tell you where you can't. Yeah. You know, they're basically where you can carry it just about everywhere.
Gotcha. Which is why I love Texas. Even though I live in Dallas County.
But yeah, that stuff. It's like, now if it's a true bar. Yeah. Then or football game, baseball, those kind of spots where there's metal. I mean, that's different. But if it's like a true bar, but I mean, a lot of these they're restaurants you don't know, and the signage or just the private buildings that want to tell you no. Yeah, I'm kind of like, fuck you. I'm kind of like, I'm not walking in with it. I'm not open carrying it, but you're not gonna know that I have one until I need to use it. And if I need to use it, you and I both are going to be glad I have it on me. And then you're pretty good. Much, yeah. And then it comes back to like, where's this fluid deal? Mm-hmm. At a certain point, it's, would you rather be judged by 12 or carried by 6?
Yeah. I actually had a situation.
and that's kind of like, well, okay, you may, even in an absolute defense situation, you may still be judged, but you better be crystal clear that I was in fearful of my life or serious bodily injury. Yeah. And it can't just be, you just can't, if you're shooting someone unarmed or use it, if you're brandishing it for a certain situation, because you can brandish it to stop the commission of an assault. Yeah. So, I mean, like if you're like, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, motherfucker, and I said, hey, I got a gun, you better get back. Yeah. That's it. Now, I can't say I'm going to shoot you, yeah. But, you're going to call the cops and say, hey, this dude just pointed a gun at me. And then I'm probably going to get arrested. Yeah. Even though I have a legal defense, you better hope there's a video of it somewhere. Yep. But it's actually using it. When you cross that line to shooting someone, you and again, I've got a young lady right now. I had this relationship with someone. Bad dude. She was, he was raping her a couple of times. She had made a couple of rape complaints. Mm-hmm. They didn't arrest him on it because, well, y'all married, common law, whatever. You're back together. And then the guy kind of did it a third time. She shot him. Called 911. Stayed there at the scene. He's trying to sexually assault me. Yeah. Shot him. Guy didn't die. Yeah. Kicked around in Dallas County, kicked around for almost a year. I did a whole grand jury presentation, everything. We all thought, it should be no build because look, here are 2 prior rape allegations in Arlington, in these other cities. I mean, what are we doing here? And they indicted her for ag assault with a deadly weapon. Now the good thing is, pretty reasonable prosecutor. We literally had the first court setting a week ago. And she said, Mike, I said, I know this case has been around a while. He goes, right now I'm trying to decide who the victim is. I'm like, okay, I like that. I said, take your time. Yeah. I said, because I said, I can tell you who she goes, no, I know who you think the victim is. Yeah. So, I mean, but again, even when you used it, even when you thought you used it, you're arrested. It's been over your head for a year. Yeah. You've had to pay lawyers tens of thousands. Now you're indicted. Now you have piece of paper that says you're going to prison for 2 to 20 years. What's going to happen? You're going to have a trial. I mean, it's and that's all the way back to the unarmed and the flow of force. I mean, if there's no weapon whatsoever, it better be in your house, or it better be something like that.
Andre the Giant, and you're like 3 foot 2.
Yes, exactly. Or you better be like something like I know this prosecutor's like, it comes out that this guy was trying to rape you 2 or 3 times. I ain't gonna win that case. Yeah. So I mean, it's got to be that far. But if it's just some fight with some people, and all of a sudden you get shot,
and we're telling people this, like, when you're like people like you and I. Peter, the whole disparity of force thing is really not in our favor. Yeah. Unless we're talking about taking on multiple people. Right. Right. But like that mutual combat stuff, like you're fighting one guy he gets, good luck with that. Yeah. Good luck with that. That's probably not the smartest move to shoot someone who's unarmed when you're a fully capable man most of the time. Yeah. I mean, you could bring in, sorry, I turned my thing on. Put it on airplane mode. We could punch a bunch of hot buttons here from Rittenhouse to the stabbing up in Frisco. Yeah. I mean, it's like, no, you
use hands. Let's fight. Yeah. We're fighting. Or, hey,
I mean,
3 or 4 guys are attacking me and you're in the middle of a riot situation.
Yeah, that's...
Okay, yeah, it's scary because he had an AR, but he was absolutely justified. And those people, well, we know what a jury did. Yep. I mean, it's like, that's fine. And he wasn't just shooting randomly at them. He waited till they were...
an imminent threat.
Like, imminent, yes, like the very last moment.
Yeah, like almost too long.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
He waited too long.
Yeah.
But, he ended up, but he had to get prosecuted all the way through. Yeah. That was a whole different deal. But you can't just argue like that kid up there and be like, oh, self-defense. You don't get stabbed someone. You don't get shoot someone. I mean, there has to be a true...
You can argue, but you better really honestly be able to justify it when the other person isn't also armed.
Right.
And
it's like, and I think, has to be... Yeah. It gets skewed way over. Like you said, you better be Andre the Giant. You better be 4 foot. You better be a 4'10" ballerina. And there better be a sex difference, and there better be a I mean, at the end of the day, I'll end it with this, folks. Yeah. Just let it go. Yes, and that's just it. Just let it go. Let it go. It's not worth it. And that's what different than when we grew up and back in the 80s and 90s. I mean, kids, you get in a typical bar fight, or you get here and there. Now you get shot. Yeah, pretty much. Or they'll be waiting for you in the parking lot. You get shot. Yep. And that's the advice I give my own son. I mean, he's out of state college bar. I mean, I know he's having fun. Yeah. But it's like you're going to get in situations where it'd be easy to fight. Yeah. He's a big dude, and I'm like, sometimes when you're at a bar, that guy you bump, or he's like, hey motherfucker, hey, my bad, you got it. My bad, hey, let me buy you a beer. Yeah, that's what I tell people, and people think about it for a while. I said, well, that guy's an asshole. You can engage that asshole, and what's going to happen? You're going to get in a bar fight, you're going to get kicked out, he's going to, and whether it's a hockey game, a football game, a baseball game, a bar, or try your best to make friends with him for a minute. Yeah. And if he's really an asshole, well, hey, buy you a beer, my bad. Okay, so he's what? Was $5, $10? Yeah. Okay, well now that guy's probably never had a beer bought for him in his life because he's an asshole. And now the biggest asshole in the bar is your buddy. Yeah. True. And I mean, it's hard to get that mentality because if you're self-defense 2A, you played sports, you're a type A guy. Yeah. You want to engage, but you can't because you don't know. You might get shot in a bump in a bar or an argument in a parking lot, or it's not worth it. No, and you're right. Walk away. Yeah. It's hard to walk away. Like I learned when I read Machiavelli's The Prince for the first time. It said, "Those who can make a friend out of an enemy will have the most loyal friend for the rest of his life." Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's it. He said it a lot better than that. Yeah, but and that's why I'm like, there will be assholes through your whole life and enemies, and if you can the quicker you can diffuse that, the better. Because I mean, you get in a fight and they get kicked out. I mean, how many people you worry about getting shot in a parking lot, and you're right here in the middle of it. You're down here in Dallas. I mean, downtown, Deep Ellum, Greenville Avenue, all these. You get shot at 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Over nothing. And Peter's wrapping this here because he's just like going too long. But I'll end it with this last story. Okay. And just to piggyback off what you're saying, I was in a club. It was kind of like a day party situation. And all of a sudden, a fight broke out in the club. And immediately, I'm looking for cover because I know how these things go down. Yep. And it was just a fight. So I'm like behind this brick wall because it was too packed for me to leave because now everyone's like, some people are rushing to the fight, other people are rushing away. Yeah, it's a shit show. Yeah, so I'm standing behind this brick wall, kind of like peeking, waiting to hear that infamous sound, the pew 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 pew. And nothing happens. It de-escalates, right? The security guys come in, they break it up, everything's done. One of the guys who was involved in the fight walks outside. As he's walking out into the parking lot, one of the other guys who were in the fight drives up. Done. Exactly what I was just saying. Yeah. Done just like that. Yeah. And then lost your life for just some little bar fight. Yeah. And you may or may not, I'm not going to tell you the actual place. You may or may not be able to see me on the news walking out of the club after it happened. And I was like, holy. Yeah. Yeah. So to your point. And that's it, man. Yeah, it happens just like that. And just so many people out there don't value human life. Yeah. That's what I see in my business, and you see it. Yeah. And it's just now you got people just again, they'll just pull a gun and shoot.
Yeah.
And yeah, you should only pull that gun if it's absolutely your life, and and again, you don't have to wait too long, but you want to make sure you're protected. Yeah. But if you're out in public somewhere, not on your house or property, you better be sure you're
that standard should be a little bit higher to determine whether or not,
and then be a USCCA member so they can hire me.
Well, I definitely appreciate you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. It's been great.